All right, the recording is on. I see some greetings in the chat. Thomas Hytter is not a Swedish speaker usually, but he writes "God dag allihopa," which is hello everyone. So hello and welcome to SQL Friday. This is number 120. And our star today is Irina Lager, who is a SQL Friday first-time speaker, which makes me happy. It's nice to broaden the speaker base. You will talk about extended events, which is I still see people talk about, or still see people use Profiler for a lot of things. So I'm happy that you do a presentation on extended events, which has been around for a long time, and it's time for people to start reusing it. So with that said, I will leave the presentation of yourself to you, but welcome to SQL Friday, whenever you're ready.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I just wanted to say that my theme is called extended events in a recent version of SQL Server 2022, but I will talk a little bit about the technology and how it works and show some examples. I'd like to believe that I speak understandable. I'm a little bit worried about my English, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions again, and I will repeat and rephrase. So you're welcome here.
And your English is
And
perfectly fine. It's at least as good as mine, so you'll do fine.
oh, thank you. So I love this technology, and I will talk about things that I really like to use in everyday work and so on. So extended events. Um, every time we face issues on production database, when some services related with other services without 100 or thousands, tens, numbers of connections could be conflicted, could implement something wrong, could be slow, and so on. And when database is not feeling well, CPU percentage is very high or something else, you should figure out what happens and solve this problem pretty fast. So when we use the profiler, it was almost impossible on a production environment because of slowness other queries, slowness business logic, and so on. So more than 10 years ago, the first version, without any interface, without any flexibility, was presented by Microsoft. After that, in many versions, it was improved and improved again and again. And in current 2022, we face new issues still. I mean that they improve this logic, and it's great. But really fantastic changes were made in 2014 and 2019 because almost all necessary events were added at that period. So what we can do with extended events, almost everything that we can do with Profiler and more. For example, extended event is a great tool for check blocked processes, for checked huge stored procedures which have a lot of parameters, or parameter sniffing, or maybe that are slowness time to time, not every time. For example, at the night when you are not near your laptop to check it. To check and profile login issues. And something have been added, as I said. So I'd like to believe that everyone here have worked with it. But basically, I just wanted to say again that it's very smooth. It doesn't affect the production environment, and it works like a background process. But time to time, you can face some issues. I will try to highlight it during the presentation. So The simplest example, which is pretty old, and everyone who worked with extended event knows, it's a blocked processes. Blocked processes could appear time to time related with some maintenance on database or related with some logical processes, and you don't know why it happens. When we have a lot of blocked processes and they stacked each other, software layer faced with a timeouts. So how to investigate it? In a real-time investigation, it's pretty simple. Who is active, who, blocked processes, report, and so on. You can ask about additional logs on the application side. But on this pretty simple example, we can face with extended events. Some part of blocked processes are related with a log escalation. I just remind that log escalation is an operation when that SQL used to log more records, for example, more pages or maybe a whole table to implement query faster. If this log is on table level, other reports are waiting when this log will be finished. If it is about seconds, in this case, some queries could be with timeout or wait for a long time, which is not acceptable by a user. So extended event contain a lot of events which can be logged on a text format or other formats. So if we will choose, just a second. My pointer doesn't work, unfortunately, so I will describe everything. If we will choose a log escalation event, we can handle it in every point and handle which process affected, which object on database level is affected, and what escalation happened. So everything will be in the event log. In this case, we can return to this log anytime, and if something goes wrong at the night time, you will return at the morning and check the log and will read everything that you need. That's great. Now on your screens, you can see the extended event description, scripted version, which contains everything that we should have. So name of event session, event that we try to track, some additional fields that should be added to the our log information to investigate the problem. Here we can see database name, some system processes, username, and you can see here, but it's necessarily very often, it's application name, host name, and so on, to understand where the problem begins. And this example, write it down to the simplest way of a extended event file. It's a common example that you can face anywhere in Brentazar, for example, courses, or in SQL services block. It's described everywhere. But the example that I love pretty more is investigation on storage procedures level. Actually, storage procedures could be pretty complicated if you are looking with for a lot of parameters. And if we face a parameter sniffing issue, these parameters could affect environment in a hard way. For example, it could be seconds, or maybe it could be minutes, which is out of timeout range and so on. But when a developer or database engineer trying to check it, he can not see any issue because of something on database is different. Statistic was updated, or index was have been reorganized, or maybe build another one, or maybe there is no conflicts or weightings as we see before. So track these issues is better to do permanently. Actually, such storage procedures shouldn't be exist on a database level. I mean, when we have a 50 or more parameters, sure, we will face a parameter sniffing, and we can't optimize such queries on any level, and time to time we will face a slowness. But business logic is works so on. Business is business, and we should implement it. So here you can see extended event to track storage procedures. The simplest event which is related with it is RPC completed, when the remote call of the storage procedure is finished. We can track it based on a name of storage procedure, or track every storage procedures any way you'd like. So based on it, we can sort it somehow. We can check duration of the storage procedure. Just small remark, all durations or all time frames related with extended event are in microseconds. It's not a milliseconds that we are common in every processes because of SQL Server is pretty fast. So we can filter out along implementations and check it, check parameters. And actually, we can, for example, create some, just a second, yeah, create some statistic, give it to analyst or someone else to exclude or to change something that is very slow, to debug it, to optimize it, to prevent something that shouldn't happen on this in these cases. So what we can see? We can see duration. We can see physical reads, logical reads, number of rows that were returned. As you see, sometimes tens, dozens of rows are returned for a long time. But time to time, you will see that a lot of rows are returned in a microsecond. So it's related with the parameters. And every parameter could be figured out from this log and analyze step by step. In our case, it was related that I tried to explain here. It was related with statistics, which were not updated for some dates. For example, a huge update of data time happens, and after that, statistic is not fresh, and some slowness can be faced by user. At the morning time, when the database engineer tried to analyze it, everything works perfect. So this case is understandable in this way, but it depends of logic that you face in your common experience. So I'd like to show you how it works in a live example. If you know it, you can grab a coffee, for example. So let's have a look on the extended event that I prepared on some sort of test server. Grab storage procedures, just RPC completed, so only call of storage procedures which are completed will be saved. We can add some filters. I added filtration based on a database name, but actually every filter here decrease your disk activity. So in a real production server, the good recommendation which given by Microsoft too is add as many filters as you can and as you will not lose the data. So it's a good idea to decrease parasite loading of the server. We can add here, for example, duration level to grab only long, probably execution. We can add here probably results. Just a second, yeah. And we can try to grab only timeouted stored procedures. So we will check only any issues, because if stored procedure works okay and without any interruptions, maybe user is satisfied with it. So it could be OR equations. So we can grab both log implementations and abort it. Also, we can set up where we will save our results. It could be event file, which is stored on the disk file, or it could be a ring buffer in the memory, which can be read by remote services. Actually, there is a number of times accept this, but we will not talk about it for long. And some advanced settings, how to switch it off, can we lose data or not. And here I would like to advise to and again, because it's painful when you face it the first time. For example, options no event loss. It's not recommended as you see it. Using these options will interrupt SQL requests from the business layer because of extended event is slowness in writing process or so on. If he can't log event, he will stop the business logic events. So it's a worst idea on production environment for sure. We will not save it because it's not needed right now. Let's have a look what we can face into the extended event. Event name, time stamp when this event happens, and the result. Everything was fine, so we can see only OK, and we can check additional information for every event. Duration, as I mentioned before, host name, application name, and SQL text which was implemented. The most interesting thing for us, I believe, just a second, it's system procedures that are not related with our activity. It's not interesting for us, I believe. Okay, too much system, but let's have a look at this and return after some tests. So here you can see all query text which was running and how it was implemented, how many rows were selected, how many physical reads and so on was implemented. So I think it's simplest thing, but it is really helpful. I like it, yeah. So let's return to our cases. Sorry. Another thing which I would like to describe, it's login information, login fails, and so on. Some part of the details you sure can find in the SQL Server log, but you will not find the additional details without switching some processes on the SQL Server. I mean, for example, which host implement this, what name of application, how long it was, and so on. So based on this example, let's check it here. Just a second. We haven't this event. I prepared the scripted version of failed login extended event, but we can use, for example, some interface for it. It's a pretty simple. Let's have a look, and then I will create it with an interface. So event is an error report. Level of the report is a 14. We can add additional sub-level error number, but we can handle all errors which are 14 numbered. We can write it in a different ways. So I think let's create this manually. Okay, name of event. We will not use any template. All events are available in some list, and we will try to find it. Error reported, this one. We can add some parameters: client name, app name, client host name. SQL text will be not grabbed here because login will be failed, but it's a great idea to collect it for other requests or other events because it contains additional information and exactly what SQL Server will be implemented. Maybe session ID could be informative if you're using some monitoring system and so on. I think that's it for now. We can track only one database, as I mentioned before. By ID will be a little bit faster, but we can use a name because it's just a test server. So basically, Wizard allows to create only two destinations of the event. It's an event file or a ring buffer. Other additional are available in manual regime. So it is created. We can check the file format and ring buffer, which is a XML format with some details when we will face it. I prepared some pretty simple presentation with an incorrect password. And when the application try to implement some, we can avoid debugging here, but it doesn't work. Okay, so to grab the version of the SQL servers that we are using, let's check. It's a console application, and I try to open Connect. Try to work with exception. Here on the application level, we see that something goes wrong and we can connect. On the SQL Server level, we can check. Just a second. Okay, we see nothing, which is strange. Let's try to connect properly. Okay, here is our version. That's fine. Change password again. And nothing happens. I mishap something. Let me try again.
Maybe this is because of your filtering on database.
Maybe,
trying
but
to check the login events.
But we connecting to exactly this database. It should be working. Let's
Yeah, but
check.
error happens a bit before that you connect to the database.
Maybe. Let's try with this one. Okay. Start session and try again. Yeah, exactly. It was an issue. So we see here that a login is failed. Client that it's from local machine. Host name, client host name, data provider, and we can add any other details. So it's a little bit more that we can find from the SQL Server log. Okay. So another example is related with deadlock, but I think we can return to it later. And now have a look at the new features that we can found in a 2022 version of SQL. It was announced in some sources. One of them is presented on the screen right now, and they announced additional CDC monitoring. I will not describe it. It is brilliantly exempted in the tech community of Microsoft, and you can find it there. But something that I've waiting for a long time, it's a query abort. They announced it, but it does not exist in the last version of SQL Server. I've checked Development Edition, I've checked Express Edition and Standard Edition, and no version of it doesn't contain abort for every query. Because for a storage procedure, it's simple. You can just filter out aborted requests and everything will work for you. But here, for every request, for batch requests, for requests which are implemented from the job, for example, it looks great, but it doesn't exist. I think it's related with a high loading that could be affected here. Query anti-pattern, it's a number of worst practice which can be handled on a query plan level. And they added and extended some trace metrics. I will show it a little bit later. So the full list of edited events in a new version you can find by the link, and it's scripted for people who love to select, and it contains lot of events, but actually it's not so helpful as it was some years ago. I mean, they added some tasks to monitoring very specific cases, like a CDC. All events were added in a 2022 version, and they are all available. I haven't found that they dropped anything, and good examples are in the tech community. According to the anti-pattern, it's a good idea to use it for fast analysis of the server's behavior. When we have different environments like development, test environments, load test, and so on, we can try to grab all these anti-patterns before they go to production. Some of anti-patterns are generated by ORM systems, as you know, and they can be handled by visual control or by reviewing of source code or so on. So it could be tracked only on SQL level. It can be analyzed with a query store, but query store skip something, and it can be purged, it can be deleted, and so on. So in this vision, using anti-patterns check is a good idea to don't allow some bad requests to a production. Just an example of a handled anti-pattern is a large number of predicates, because if you are using a number of where equations, here you can see 95 of it, it will be handled as an example of a bad code. It could be pretty fast, to be honest. If you have all indexes, if you have a great environment, it will be fast. But anyway, it's not a good practice, and you can try to avoid it if you will face it on production and so on. And here we can see that it's ORM event, ORM SQL script, because of some meanings like F and other letters and so on. So it was not written down by a database level developer, but somewhere else it was produced. Also, they are provided non-optimal logic, which could be things like a max levels or large in equations or something like that, but max when they use especially maximum level in the query plan. I have some example for live session here. Just a second. So let's create a session before any exercises. Let's check the session. So here we see a database filter which will work for us. I mean, here it's on its place. Also, we added some details into the fields that we will grab. And that's it. We will write into event file and ring buffer 2 for faster access. So start the event and check live data. Another thing that I faced a long time ago, it's viewing the live event data for a long time on a production server. It affects on a memory leak, some sort of it, and it could affect your SQL server if you use the same machine, or it could be your machine from what you access to your SQL server could restart it because of it. Pretty simple thing, but it could be a huge damage. Just try to avoid it. It's only in demonstration. And we can take just a second. Some example to implement. It's selecting from a system view, which is related with number of tables, and some sort of this where equation will be related with with a conversion, and just try to have a look with a plan. Okay. As you see here, we face scan instead of index seek because of some sort of conversion that made here. And we can check our anti-pattern extended event. You can see here the grabbed query, anti-pattern that have been grabbed here, type conversion, as I mentioned before, and it's related with seek suppression. So that's it, pretty simple. If you will start it and it will work for example, some hours or days, you may check it after that and return everything you have found to the developers or to the analysts to think about it. So that's it. Pretty simple. And another thing that I should show here is extended event statistics. What I mean, they added some additional fields into the system databases, system tables, which grab the statistics of the event execution. I mentioned already that time to time extended events are not pretty light. They can affect somehow production environment by using the disk, by using memory, by some misconfiguration, and so on. And to understand how many events you can use on production, how many events you can add, how often they work it out, you may use this statistic. So let's try to have a look what it's returned. It returns all sessions that exists on some environment, on some SQL server, and how often they are run, how long they run, also here in microseconds, how many event files they used, what is average time per writing event file, what's a minimum and the maximum time. And based on it, you can switch off or switch on some statistics to avoid any issues on your environment, on your real server. You can filter here only your events. I called all my created events with a TMP prefix, which show us what exactly we are looking for. So the longest running was 45 microseconds, and shortest 35 microseconds for this event session for failed logins. It's really not long, but system events, which are called from a pre-built, pre-installed sessions like system health or telemetry, could be longer. As you see, shortest event could be microseconds or dozen microseconds, and it could take to milliseconds or maybe longer for any cases when server face slow requests, when it face any issues, when something go wrong on a physical level, and so on. So time to time you may switch it because of some issues. So I have small example with a deadlock, if you'd like it, and I can answer some questions right now if you have it. I think we can interrupt on a question session and return to a deadlock at the end of this hour. What do you think?
There is one question in the chat already, which is not on the content itself, but if you can share the presentation afterwards.
Sure. What slide?
Alexander, the script will be useful as well, Alexander says. So
yeah, the whole presentation in scripts.
Whole presentation in scripts. Okay.
And scripts, yeah. Which you have prepared for this one. Just to plain side.
Yes, I can send it after our meeting, and I don't know, Magnus, can you share it somehow?
Yeah, no problem.
Great. I will share the presentation in PDF format, and I will add scripts that I have here and show you during the live session, and something that we have into the presentation. Yes, sure. Yeah. Also, I'd like here mention that in the end part of the presentation, I grab some links to read about and YouTube sessions. I like what produced Irina Stellato in her presentations and her activities on conferences. So you can find her blog, and there is a part about extended events. It's really great, pretty simple, but really helpful. Also, I'd like to recommend some others, and everything here is linked. So I'd like to hope that it's clickable. You can click and check it. Someone who's really great write it about. Anything else?
Nothing from the chat, no.
Okay, so let's try to play with the deadlocks. Another small example which we have. Actually, deadlock is not a big deal for good DBA. I think everyone can call, for example, 3 or more ways to find the deadlock. Maybe how to log it, how to find it, and so on. But let's try here with a event session. Why not? Actually, another point with the extended events, if you have a number of disks, just a practical advice, you may use separated disk for extended events to avoid concurrency access, for example. But here is just a test machine, so you can see a deadlock example. We will grab some information about deadlock. We grabbing number of events here. As you see, add event, add event, add event, and so on, which will be not only event of deadlock, it will be a deadlock chain, it will be a XML format report, and so on. So let's create it. Refresh, start. I'm trying to avoid after starting of the extended events because of possible issues with settings, with using of disk, with the priority of some extended event. So it's just I don't know, sort of paranoia. And we can find a deadlock example. Actually, it's a simple deadlock example from the some Microsoft tail block. I'm not pretty sure where I took it, but it's a common case with a transaction level and waiting for a log of another table and another request here. So table A, table B, table B, table A, it will be a chain, and we will wait for 8 seconds, so we should face it on the deadlock, and I will be faster, I hope. Okay. So now it's reverted, should be. Yeah. So deadlock happened. Some resources was deadlocked. This one finished successfully. So have a look. The ring buffer level. 5 events were grabbed. And actually, it's not really useful. Let me add here, please, another source, which will be more interesting. Oh no, and file, yeah. Okay. And make this exercise again here and here. Wow. Yeah. I missed up something. Just a second. Yeah. So event file is not fast enough. Yeah. Now it's write it down. As you have seen, we wait for a second on my slow laptop to see the event file because of writing takes a time, and on production it's affected anymore. Chain to chains, as we have 2 requests, deadlock activity, XML level, and database report based on these deadlocks that we have seen. So we see here what resources and what another resources were involved in the log process. Here the same. Deadlock in XML format, who is victim, which was another one request, what exactly have been involved, primary key here and primary key here, and so on. And also the same for the deadlock information with exactly queries which were implemented, which were victim and some sort of the another report here. Almost the same as you will see in the SQL Server log with the switched on parameters to write it down. So yeah, that's it. Little bit shorter than 1 hour, but today is a Friday. Let me return to the conversation. Yeah. So thank you.
I am a big fan of extended events, so I love when people talk about them.
Actually, I can talk more, and I could show complicated examples and so on, but for first conversation with different people in the chat, it's not a good idea, I think. So I think we can stop here.